Do you know someone amazing? Someone who has a unique job or hobby? Maybe someone involved with an interesting organization, be it a creative community or a charitable mission. There are people like this hidden in our community, living their daily lives all the while achieving incredible goals, creating works of art, inspiring others to be their best, or just generously donating their time. This show is about putting a spotlight on these members of our community. I'm Ben Harris, a 2017 graduate of Shrewsbury High School and alumnus of the SHS Speech and Debate Team, here to introduce a new show that will be hosted by different members of the current team each episode, showcasing their talents as they work to deliver these enriching community stories to you as we celebrate these quiet but undoubtedly impressive individuals. Simply put, we want you to stay with us for a moment, because these are the people you have to meet.
Hi, my name is Paulina Hruskoci. I'm a member of the Shrewsbury High School Speech and Debate Team, here to host the 7th episode of You Have to Meet. I'm here with 3 members of the Shrewsbury, Massachusetts Days for Girls team. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Nancy Hughes. I'm the team leader for our Days for Girls team.
Hi, I'm Sue DiLeo. I'm a member.
I'm Barb Trudel. I'm the co-leader with Nancy.
Awesome. And can you all tell me a little bit about what Days for Girls is on a national, global level?
Well, all over the world, millions of women and girls are held back every month when they're menstruating. They don't have the opportunity to go to school. They don't have the opportunity to work. And so still in 2019, we're ashamed to talk about menstruation. So there's a lot of stigma about that. And so we call that period poverty. And in 2008, Celeste Mergens from Seattle, Washington was in Kenya on a trip. And she was at an orphanage and she saw girls sitting in the corner on cardboard boxes. And she asked what they were doing there, and she was told that they were on their periods and they had no way to take care of themselves, so that they were forced to stay in their rooms sitting on cardboard boxes. So at first she thought that disposables would be something that would take care of that. She soon learned that with the sanitation system throughout most of the world, disposables are not an option. So she came up with a washable, reusable pad and kit that goes out to girls. So Days for Girls is basically a grassroots group of volunteers, over 50,000 volunteers throughout the world that help support so far over 1 million girls in over 120 countries on 6 continents, helping them stay in school, get education, and be able to work.
So Sue, can you tell me a little bit about how Shrewsbury got involved in this?
It was kind of a funny story. There was an article, a really great article, about a group from Westminster, and they were doing, Days for Girls. So I went to Bible study, and Barbara was there, and I presented this article to everybody. And Barbara, took the bait and said, well, I don't know how to sew, but I'll learn. And we went out to Westminster. I had talked with the gal out there, and she said, oh, I have some other groups coming out to learn how to do Days for Girls, make all the kits and stuff. So we got out there, and Barbara and I are sitting side by side, and there's Nancy and Gina Curvilla and a whole bunch of people, and they have this book, this notebook already, like with the 26 pages of how to do this, and they really looked like they knew what they were talking about, which was really amazing. Barbara and I practically at the same time said, hey, we better hook up with these girls. They know what they're doing. Yeah. And that was basically the birth of Days for Girls of Shrewsbury. They were willing to take us, even though we were non-sewers, but we had enthusiasm, and that was it. That was what, 4 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
In fact, our anniversary will be this month, the end of this month, as we started 3 years ago in 2016.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's amazing, too, what has been accomplished by this group, of almost 200 women and 1 man. Across, helping people in other countries.
So can you all talk a little bit too about why people want to get involved in this? What are some of the reasons that people like to be involved in this and kind of throw themselves into it, if you will?
Well, my background is women's health. So for me, this was a no-brainer. I'm a quilter, so I sew. I spent 30 years in the Army, so I've traveled around the world. Women's health is my background, and I delivered babies in the Army, so I kind of have an idea of, I know a lot about the situation of menstruation. So for me, it was a no-brainer. The other nice thing is there's a lot of education that goes with this program. So everybody that gets a kit gets an education also about basic puberty, how to take care of themselves, hygiene, all those kinds of things. So for me, it just was natural. How about you, Barb?
I would say the big thing for our family has always been education. And when I found out that there were so many girls in so many different situations in a variety of countries that simply could not access school for 1 week every month. And what that leads to is they fall behind in school. They're so dedicated to their studies, but it's very frustrating when you come back after missing a week of your academics. And what often happens is they drop out of school. And when they drop out of school, they're at risk for early marriage. And early marriage generally means early pregnancy. And early pregnancy puts them at very high risk for both infant mortality and mother mortality. So it's really, when you provide a kit like this and you provide these kind of tools, it helps the girls access their education. It helps women get back to work. And then it also changes the entire cycle of breaking, it really does break the cycle of poverty.
And what about you?
I like helping people. I was a counselor at Oak Middle School for a lot of years, and I've been in retirement and, doing things to help other people. And it blew my mind that kids don't go to school when, they have their period. And so it was really great. And what's amazing is as I'm out in the community, people are starting to know, that, oh, you're involved with that Days for Girls. Tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just at Danielson Flowers the other day, and I think I maybe picked up a few more quilters, and those are really their prize because they can sew really, really well.
Sue knows so many people in town. She brings in a lot of our members.
That's
Our new
awesome.
members
My
come
eye
from
doctor,
knowing Sue, yeah. Yeah.
But we do. I think if you asked our general group, first of all, the majority of people in the United States are just astounded at the fact that everyone in the world doesn't have a regular flush toilet and doesn't have access to the things that girls need to take care of themselves. So they're utterly shocked that it's not available. So I think for the women in the group, it's almost become a passion to make sure that these girls get what they need, because they shouldn't have to use corn husks or leaves or cotton in order to be able to go to school.
Absolutely, absolutely. So can you show me what this kit is all about? What's inside that beautiful bag?
Well, and that's important because these kids will take these to school, and the boys don't necessarily know what's in there. They can carry it all the time, and there's a Days for Girls logo on it. And we've heard that sometimes the kidnappers that come and look for girls won't touch them because they have an association with another group, which is really great. So everybody gets, you can chime in here too, gets a nice plastic bag. Mm-hmm. It's amazing too. Who was it?
So the reason for the Ziploc freezer bags is what they have found is that these bags hold up the longest. These kits are meant to last a girl a minimum of 3 years.
Wow.
So what they're getting, and they've actually have tracked some girls in, I think, Kenya, that they have actually lasted for almost 5 years now.
That's amazing.
And so each girl gets 2 of these Ziploc plastic bags. And they get 2 brand new pair of underwear in their size. And they get a nice new washcloth. And then the components that we sew, that we make, is we make these pads, and they kind of look like the maxi pad with wings, and they snap on the back, around the underwear, and then they have pockets for the pads to go into. You want to talk about the PUL?
Sure. Now, if you notice in between this beautiful quilt gray cotton with the pockets, in between front and back, there's this type of fabric. It's called PUL, or polyurethane lining. It's a waterproofing fabric. So when they stack the soft flannel, the absorbent part, even if it does get as far as this piece of cotton, it will hold there. So it keeps the underpants clean. And then they use their Ziploc bag, which they have in their kit, so they can place a soiled liner into that Ziploc bag. And we provide them with a bar of soap and a washcloth to keep themselves clean. And in some places they can take what we call gray water. So they've washed their hands and they can use that water that's been left over and put it into that Ziploc bag. And then they simply take the Ziploc bag and they use so if they have the Ziploc bag and one of the liners, they'll just gently squish it, and then they pour out what we call the most colorful water. And then the Ziploc freezer bags hold up the longest, and the nice thing about that is that keeps their kit clean and secure and dry until they can get home and wash it more thoroughly.
And so their pads are actually 2 pieces of 100% cotton flannel. This is what we call the hot spot. And then these fold, and they can put 1 in their shield, or they can put up to 3 for heavier days. And so we give them each get 2 of the shields, and they get 8 liners. And then if they have the opportunity to take care of these properly, they will last up to 3 years. And then last but not least, they'll get a card with a visual, so that they don't speak English, which most of them do not. They can see the picture of how to take care of it. And on the back side of this, they also get what's called a menstrual calendar, so that they can start to keep track, so that they know when they're going to start their periods. Although anecdotally, what they have found is that if they carry their kits with them all the time, like Sue had talked about, if there's any sex traffickers in the area, they will stay away from them. They also, it's taboo in most places for you not to engage in sex when you're on your period. And so the rape has gone down a lot in the countries where these kits are. The other nice thing I had talked about earlier, and Barbara had talked about it, is education. So every place that anybody distributes these kits, it's mandatory that they also do an education piece. And so these education flip charts that are available, so that anybody could do the education. The girls would see one side and the trainer would see the other side. So it's all scripted out for the training to be done. And they're done in many languages. They're done in Spanish, French, Creole, Hindi. They're working on every possible language that is out there. The other great thing is 2 years ago, Days for Girls actually started a whole education program for the men and the boys, and it's called Men in the Know. So there's no use of educating 1/2 of your population on how do women get pregnant and not educate the men on the same things. And where the girls have a portion on self-defense and on how to avoid being sex trafficked, the boys are taught about that how to respect women, and that they need to be much more careful about their sexual encounters as well. And so it really does a good job at balancing both men and women getting educated instead of one group.
That's amazing. So it really covers a lot more than just, the periods. It kind of extends much farther than that, which is
absolutely.
Really great.
Well, you have to understand that in our education system, you probably had some basic sex education in the 5th or 6th grade, and then it went on from there. Well, in most countries, that does not happen. So they carry a lot of myths about why do women bleed, to include that some women are still ostracized and they are not even allowed to be in their house when they're on their periods. They have to sleep in a tent or they have to sleep in a hut, and they're not allowed to be in their houses, which is very dangerous, especially for a young girl to be out by herself and not be allowed to be around her family.
So on the local level, when you all are just in Shrewsbury, you're just sewing these, and that's kind of how you involve people. And can you tell me a little bit about the community you formed here in Shrewsbury?
Oh, sure. We have a large group of volunteers from a lot of different areas of the community. Most are in Shrewsbury, some are in Boylston, and even other, we actually have a couple of folks that come down from near Cape Cod that they drive up. We meet twice a month. We had been meeting once at Nancy's house, and then we were able to acquire space at a local church hall, and now we've outgrown Nancy's house, so we do meet twice a month now at a church hall. There's no religious affiliation to Days for Girls. It's an entirely secular group because we do distributions throughout the world, and so we try to honor and respect the cultures of the women we serve. So while we're completely secular, it just happens that the faith groups that we belong to have either a charity and justice or a social justice committee, and our work on that kind of dovetailed into our work with Days for Girls. So what we do is we set the hall up in stations. So there's a station where people are cutting fabric. There's another station where people are ironing fabric. Another station where people are putting on those nice little snaps, and so there's.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So you keep it efficient and get a lot done. So.
And so there's no requirement to be able to sew. Actually, when we get done with all the sewing pieces, the women and the men that do sew, there's a lot of other stuff that has to be done. The packing, the quality control, putting the snaps on, putting the strings in the bags. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on besides sewing.
So I also know some of you have actually traveled on these trips to actually distribute these. Can you kind of share your experience with that?
Yes, actually, I have had the good fortune to be on a couple of distribution trips. I went with a group here from Shrewsbury that has a connection to a community in Haiti. They had suffered terribly between the earthquake and then the hurricane that hit the island. So we were distributing kits there. And there was a gentleman there who acted as a translator while I had the good fortune of doing the education and the distribution, and it went really well, and it was a really profound experience to be able to share this kind of knowledge. And then a couple of years later, I was able to go to Kampala, Uganda. And there, it was really quite the next level because in that instance, we partnered with a Days for Girls enterprise. So Days for Girls has a local office in Kampala, Uganda. They have them throughout the world in different places. Kampala happens to be one of them. So we were able to hire 2 local trainers to come with us. So we brought kits that we made, that we donated, but we also purchased kits that were made by local women right in the Kampala area. And these 2 trainers did the educational component both with the girls and with the boys. And the great thing about that is even though many of the students in Uganda learn English, and that's the language of their education, when they go to school they're using English. However, it was great to see that if they had a question that they wanted to ask in their local language, they had a lot more confidence doing that. And we were there, but we were sort of helpers in the background. So we left knowing that community, there were 2 villages actually, those 2 places, we left there knowing that they had access to local resources. They didn't need to wait for us to come back with another set of donations. They were able to carry on this on their own and to be able to deliver that training.
That's awesome.
So, yes, one student in particular was, Nancy, do you want to tell them about Becca? She was beyond
We had a young woman, I would probably say she was probably in the 8th grade, and very stoic and no nonsense type of girl. But boy, did she know, she listened, she got it, she understood it. And so every time the instructors would ask, would one of the girls stand up and repeat and talk about what we just taught? And she stood up every single time, and she was able to interact with her peers, which was even a much better level than even the instructors of getting right down to the girls' level of being able to talk to them. And she was just brilliant. Now, we did teach the girls how to do some sewing. She was not good at sewing, but she was very smart and she understood the education piece. In fact, when we left, after the second week, and she had come out to the other village with us, we actually asked her that as the younger girls got to the age where they needed to have this education, and we left a chart with her. We asked her to be the one that the younger girls could come to, and they could get the education. And then there was other girls that were good at sewing, and they would teach the girls how to sew their kits. But Becca was the one, and she, if you could have seen this young girl's smile on her face. You know, she's an orphan. She lives with about 20 other girls. And for her to have us tell her how smart she was and how much confidence we had in her to carry this mission on in her small group, she was just elated, and it was really something to see. So when you get the opportunity to go on one of these trips and see what it means to these girls, I would tell you that I personally wish that every single teenager and young 20-something person from the United States would go to a country and see that where the type of privileges that we have are beyond anything you can imagine when you go in and you are feeding hungry children off the street, and you're watching little children, 4 and 5 years old, walking with their little jugs down to the one source of water to get water to take back so that they can have water for the day. It's just amazing, the things that we take for granted.
So also, it's so amazing to me. It's not just about us giving these to them, right? Can you just talk a little bit about why it's so important to you that you're respecting their culture, that you're getting them involved rather than just handing them these things? Why is that such an important component to this whole organization?
Well, I think one of the important things to point out is that since this organization started in 2008, there have been several different iterations of this particular kit. This is the latest one, but they've tried a number of different approaches.
28. We're on number 28.
I did not know that. That's great. Wow. But all of the changes that they make to these kits, they honor the wisdom and the knowledge of the people they serve. They do not make any changes, even from something as tiny as where to position this little orange tag to what type of fabric are we going to use. All of those choices are done out of respect for the culture and with the feedback of the girls who are using the actual kits.
That's
so
amazing.
Nothing happens without their input. And they do take a lot of data to see, okay, is what we're doing, is it successful? Are we doing it correctly? And they always listen to the girls that they serve. So that's how they knew that there was a kit that actually lasted for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. And then they also, before you ever get started, they ask if you're going on a distribution that you have someone on the other end that you are actually have been communicating with that you're going to go to. You just don't show up and start on the street corner handing things out. So if it's a village that say you have to go to the elders of the community. So you may have to sit down with 4 or 5 men that are in their 60s or 70s and talk to them about why it's important that their girls stay in school. Now you have to understand, we are only there to talk about it's important for your girls to be able to stay in school and about menstruation. We don't talk about any of the other stuff that's going on because we need to be able to build relationships and honor those relationships. So we don't discuss religion, we don't discuss politics, we don't discuss anything else that's going on.
You're keeping your mission simple.
So we just keep our mission simple. And we talk with that person and get permission. Now, when we went to Uganda, we went to a specific organization, Raising Up Hope for Uganda, because we knew the young man that ran the orphanages for the girls and boys coming out of the streets in Kampala. One of our teammates has gone to the Dominican Republic. She is a physician at UMass, and she takes residents to the Dominican. So there's a specific hospital that she goes to, and that hospital supports a specific community of poor women that they try to reach out to and take care of. So most of the groups that we have helped, and we have sent out almost 1,000 kits since
That's
we
amazing.
started. I think we're at 957 or something like that.
So I do want to get in one more question too before we kind of finish up, because this is amazing to hear about all of this work you've done. 1,000 kits. That's incredible. And just the how many years that you've been in?
Three.
Three. So if somebody in Shrewsbury or the local area wants to get involved, how can they get involved? What's your local outreach like?
So there's two ways. They can get on the daysforgirls.org website, and they can find us through that, and it'll say Shrewsbury, Massachusetts Days for Girls team. Or I think at the end of this, you're going to have both Barb's and myself will give our emails and my phone number, and they can reach out to us in that way.
One thing I think is real important to know too is there's no job that's too small. You know, I mean, you can have no talent like myself and still be involved. You can donate. We have a lot of people who, you know, will buy underwear. They go on trips a lot. They get the soap. They donate them to us. They buy plastic bags for us, or they come and work. We have a work session tomorrow at St. Mary's of the Hills from 1 to 5. Some people come for an hour. Some people come and just pick up material and go home and make these bags. And others will stay for the afternoon and enjoy the fellowship.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and describing your experience. Amazing to hear all the work you've done. And I hope you continue to serve all of these girls in the amazing way that you're doing so, with education and with providing them a product and everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you for watching this episode with these wonderful ladies that are a part of the Days for Girls organization here locally. And if you have someone that you think that we should meet, pay attention for the email that we're about to show and let us know. Thank you so much for watching.